Hello, hello. As you all come in, make sure you all hit that like button. Hello, 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 hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. This is Pamela, and you are watching Pam Entertainment TV, where we review movies and television. And as you all know, that my movies and television segment is going to my second channel, which is PETV underscore reacts. All of my movie and television shows that I'm going to be reviewing is going to be on that channel, particularly starting January 1st. Also, on this channel, you'll have a lot of my pop culture chats, my celebrity news and celebrity legal news, and I will be going live on this channel. Please go to my second channel, PETV underscore reacts. Here on YouTube. Go ahead and show that. Make sure that you all go check that channel out. Please go over and subscribe on that channel. That will get me to I need 200. Please get this channel over there, PETV react underscore reacts, so that I could go live and do my movie and television review lives. I can do live reactions as they happen. All right. Again, don't forget to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. So, hadn't seen y'all, been gone for a minute, but I'm back with the jump off. Listen, this is going to be a merger of my celebrity legal news and my pop culture chat, because for once they are just merging, they're merging together like Voltron. I promise. So let's get into this. Make sure. Oh, okay. So let's get into this. Let's get into this. Let's get into this. So, what do I want to start off with first? So let's just start back. Let's go from where we are today and then go backwards. So, I'm understanding that old Mr. Tyler Perry, is being sued again. Now you remember part of earlier this year, he was sued by Derek Dixon for essay harassment and all of that on the movie television series The Oval. And so now we see that Tyler Perry and Lionsgate was hit with a $77 million SA suit from the show A Medea Halloween. I believe that was a movie. Let's get into this article and see what's going on with Mr. Perry. But I will say, he has a type, child. He has a specific type. Let's see what we got going on here. And this is reported by Deadline. It says a SA and SB lawsuit against Tyler Perry, filed by the same lawyer behind the similar action earlier this year, is just more of the same in search of a payout, claims Tyler Perry's team. They said, having recently failed in another matter against Perry, the very same lawyer has now made it yet another demand from more than a decade ago, which will always be a failed money grab. So I'm curious, did they settle the Derek Dixon lawsuit, or has it gone to trial, or what's going on? He said it was a failed. Did they throw it out of court? Interesting, because I haven't been keeping up, and I apologize for that. Let's see. The very same lawyer has now made yet another demand from more than a decade ago, which will also be a failed money grab. Alex Spiro said today of the big bucks jury child seeking claim from Mario Rodriguez against Perry and Boo, a Medea Halloween distributor, Lionsgate. So he is suing not only Tyler Perry, he is suing Lionsgate as well. And so they have Alex Spiro, who was Jay-Z's attorney, representing Tyler Perry in all of this. Mm, mm, mm. So this is coming back from 2018. It says focus on the making of Boo and the number of subsequent meetups, such as a November 14, 2018 Beverly Hills dinner at Maestro Steakhouse to discuss more potential roles for model Rodriguez, that saw a cameo of sorts from John Cena. The complaint is also full of graphic and specific details, talking about again Tyler Perry inappropriately touching, inappropriate touching, inappropriate groping. All of this, they're claiming PTSD, psychological and emotional and economic injuries from Perry. I'm not reading. I'm just glazing over this. I don't know if he has a psychologist or psychiatrist to back all of this stuff up. But the main point and the gist of this whole matter is that Tyler Perry once again has another lawsuit on his hands, uh, pretty much citing the same thing. SA using his position to try to keep the people with him, just a whole bunch of stuff. We'll go into detail. This will, if I find the lawsuit, we'll definitely do a separate video and we're just skimming over from now because I'm just going, like I said, I'm just going backwards with all of this. So 260 million plus 77 million. He's about to be, and which is always sad to me. And this is what's sad. There are so many people, there will be so many people that would be willing, without all of this stuff, to date Tyler Perry, to be his sneaky link if that's what he wants. But it's just like, I don't know why he just doesn't go from they have all these high powered what do they call these, matchmakers and things like that. If this is what he wants and that's what he's talking about he wants, I don't understand why they just don't get the people sign the contracts, give the man the money. It'll still come out cheaper. You could buy the man a house, you could pay the man some stuff, and it's something that you all get together and you write your contract up for it. You could tell them it's for 2 years or whatever, and you won't have all of this mess. People won't know all of your business. Sign the NDAs, do what you need to do. But I don't know if it's the thrill of the hunt type of situation. Y'all let me know. I don't know if it's this thrill of the hunt to see who I can get away with, or does he have those predilections to where he wants to dominate and all this other stuff. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out, why is it that you see all of these high powered men in all of these positions, and all of their money, they get parted from their money and their fortune because they do not have the penis discipline. They just don't. And we see it time and time and time and time again, that you don't have the discipline that you need because you are out here doing all of these things and you're not covering yourself. You're just out here willy-nilly, as if no one is going to say anything to you because of the fact that you have money. A mess. All right. So I just wanted to put that out there. That was something that had just come up. So let me start in this place. And let me share this screen. So in Nigeria, The U.S. bombed the northern portion of Nigeria. Okay. It says here we're going from NBC Nightly News, and follow me because I'm going to take you backwards. It says a blast at a mosque in Nigeria kills 5 and injures more than 30 people. Oh no, this is the wrong thing. I'm sorry. That's the wrong one. All right. Sorry about that. I just pulled up the wrong one. All right. So the US did an airstrike. The US did an airstrike in the north and west part of Nigeria. Okay. And they did this on Christmas Day. The Nigerians say that this was a joint operation with US targeted terrorists. Apparently, it's supposed to be ISIS. I don't know if is it ISIS or Haram. Says the United States carried out, and this is out of Reuters, and it's written by Trevor Honeycutt, Idris Ali, and Serb He Misra. So here we have a statement from the U.S. Africa Command. I think that this is a video. In October, that Christianity faces a quote existential. Hold on, y'all. Let me get all my audio correct because it is a video. Oh, it won't let you get. Oh, so it won't let me make it bigger. I apologize, y'all. Now this is interesting because and I'm trying to paint this picture how all of this is going on. Because they had talked about that. Number one, when Trump got into office, he was talking about that he was going to be removing the country of illegal immigrants. Then he pasted all of this. He did a 19 country spread of all the 19 countries that he felt were shithole countries, is what he said. That's a quote from him. And it is my understanding that he's still going through and they are deporting folks. Now, a lot of people are saying that he's deporting people and deporting families and deporting things like that. I imagine so. I understand that. But they're also saying that they are deporting them because of their paper. There are people who have been deported. I know, back to Nigeria. They have been here 30 years and they haven't gotten their paperwork completed, or they haven't completed their paperwork. They talked about this woman who had worked here, and I think that she was a nurse and she had been here 20 some odd years. Her son's paperwork is a citizen, a naturalized citizen. They even had her parents come over 10-15 years ago. They're naturalized citizen, but she never did complete and finish up her paperwork. And I guess she thought because she had been here these many years, because a lot of people are thinking because they've been here 20, 30 years and they are contributing to society, that that should count and they should stay. Believing in that, make sure your paperwork is caught up. Because it's this, I akin that, and like I said, I don't want to make light of anything, but I akin to that, that in certain states, you have to have insurance to be able to drive your car on the road, right? I can still drive my car on the road without that insurance, but the law says that I have to have that insurance. Now, if I get caught on the road and I don't have insurance, even though I'm a good driver and I hadn't had any problems up to then, I'm still supposed to be paying for that insurance so that I can drive down the road. And I akin the same thing. I understand that you all are you are contributing to the society. However, if you've overstayed your visa, then you're out of alignment. If you snuck across the border and didn't do it the right way, you're out of alignment. Yes, I understand that there are some coming in and they're committing crimes and they're supposed to leave because of the crimes they committed. However, if the word is in there, if you are an illegal immigrant, that means that you don't have the proper paperwork that says that you're in this country legally, whether it's your green card, your naturalization, whether it's a viable work visa, school visa, travel visa, whatever it is. If it's not up to par, they will deport you. And yes, people can march in the street, and yes, people can get out in front of your homes trying to prevent ICE and all of this other stuff, but still you need to get your paperwork in order. That's all they're saying. They're saying this administration is basically saying, whether you agree with it or whether you don't, that if you do not have the proper authority to be in the country, then they're going to put you out. And when they find you, they're going to put you out. Now, do I agree with the tactics? No, because I don't believe in putting anybody in no camps or anything like that. Once you find out that they've done that, a detention center where you can gather enough folks from one country and send them back to their country, no issue. Now, sending people to different countries and things like that, that's a bit much. However, somebody told me, well, they didn't mind coming to this country, so why would they mind whatever other country that they're going to? That's a risk that they take. So, but anyway, I'm not here to argue my personal things. So we have them bombing Nigeria. We have Trump saying that this was a SH country, a shithole country. And he goes and he bombs it. So why is he bombing this country? Why Nigeria? You've got all the Nigerians here that you're sending back. You don't like them. So why is it that now that you're doing this in the name of Christianity? Now, here are my opinions. Right above the border, the northern border to Nigeria, are three countries. You've got Niger, you got Burkina Faso, and you have Mali. Now, these three countries are interesting. And here's why they're interesting. Here we go. Here's why they're interesting. So you know that Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have separated from France. So in other words, they are no longer paying France or England or any of those countries any more of their resources. They're wanting to get out here on the world stage and say you're going to pay top dollar like you pay everybody else for the resources that we have. We see this in Burkina Faso where they have a huge gold deposit, and France has been taking the gold, paying less than price for it, and that's how France's coffers are being filled with all of this gold. Because if you take away a lot of these African territories, African countries that France still has some control over, France will probably fold. And the same of different other countries. I think that there was an issue. It's like they're paying for their it's a crazy thing that like they're paying for their freedom. I'm not going to try to be real political because I'm not really sure about all of that. But here's what I do know. Those three countries are working together to try to work with other African countries to come up with they have, I think it's BRICS, where they're going to come up where the dollar is no longer going to be the standard of currency across the world in any of these other countries. So these three countries are huge with a lot of deposits, rich mineral deposits that the world needs. I think in Mali, they have a lot of uranium and zinc and things like that. The same thing with Niger. I think that they have a huge deposit of uranium. And if anybody knows about uranium, they use that to nuclear nuclear power plants. They use that uranium to help fuel that. They also use uranium in weapons of mass destruction. So that is very, very key. So they were paying these countries pennies on the dollar for it, and then being able to use and do all this other stuff. So these three countries are really, really tight in wanting to collaborate with each other, get other countries to collaborate with them, and to do all of that. Now, Nigeria is interesting because Nigeria has a lot of, and now the Nigerians, y'all correct me if I'm incorrect with all of this. Nigeria has a lot of oil. However, Nigeria has a lot of tribal fighting where they're doing a lot of different back and forth. And I think that the tribal fighting is coming in. This is where you're getting the Christians are being overrun because it's mostly a tribal fight. You have some tribes that are that practice Islam. You have some tribes that practice Christianity. You have some tribes that transfer the old religions and things like that. So you got a lot of all that's going on. And the issue with Nigeria is that with all of that fighting, you have a lot of people in Nigeria fleeing their country and going to different countries. They're in Denmark. They're in other countries on the African continent. You have them come to the United States. They go to Caribbean countries. They go to South American countries. They go to European countries. So they're going everywhere and they're doing all this stuff. So there's a lot of people. There's the infighting and people fleeing the infighting. Now, also, Nigeria is also having an issue with going to these countries and the people booting them out. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of scamming, but we'll get back to scamming later on. That's not the whole gist of all of this. What's interesting is that he supposedly had hit Muslim targets. Now, it's my understanding that the president of Nigeria follows Islam as well. So I'm unsure as to why a president who follows Islam would want another country to come in, the United States to come in and to bomb Muslim targets, terrorist targets. Like I said, geopolitics is not my biggest wheelhouse, so I don't want to start talking out of turn. However, I think that has to do with it. Now, Nigeria might be stumped because, again, a lot of the countries in Africa are moving away from the US dollar and they're moving towards having their own currency. Starting, like the EU has their own country, so all those except for the United Kingdom, they have their own currency, the euro, and all this other stuff. So they everything is backed upon that euro. They're wanting to start their own currency and back it up, but they need the other countries to follow suit. And with Nigeria allowing the United States to come in, even after the United States called their country a shithole country, they're stuck because now this is an in way for the United States to get in. And I don't know how that works out. I don't know what Trump is going to do in regards to that, but that's what we have going on here. And then we back up a little bit. Now, Pam, how does this jive with your celebrity news and stuff like that? Because of Nicki Minaj. Now, if you remember, there's a couple of things that Nicki Minaj did. First, Nicki Minaj went to the UN on a diplomatic mission. She went, she had her diplomatic moment. She went to the UN and she was talking about how the world is against Christians, and she talked about the plight of what's going on for Nigeria, and she spoke up Nigeria, which is interesting because Nicki Minaj is Trinidadian. That doesn't mean that she can't speak up or say anything for anybody else, but it is interesting nonetheless. And if you know Nicki Minaj has her reputation has been waning a bit. Her fan base is not fan basing as they usually are. And what I mean by that, as long as she's doing something messy, her fan base is in on her fan base is in like Flynn. But when she's doing something in regards to her record sales and her record album, her fan base is not as quick to give her the dollars. And so it looks like she made a pivot. So she has made a pivot to Trump. She's made a pivot to a new audience base, which is MAGA, which is interesting because she went to Turning Point with Erica Kirk, and she was praising Trump. She was praising JD Vance. She was, Erica had her on the stage. They were him hawing and yee yawing and all kinds of stuff. Even when Erica Kirk's husband said that Nicki Minaj's music was terrible culturally. But again, she's Trinidadian. And so we see that too. And it is my understanding that her music sales have gone up slightly because of her newly acquired fan base from the folks that follow Trump and the folks that follow Erica Kirk and all of them. All right. So do you see how all of that kind of went together? Y'all, I would be remiss if I did not talk about this. They have been dropping Epstein files like a mixtape. You hear me? They have been dropping Epstein files like a mixtape, and there have been the initial drop had a lot of photos in it, and they had all these little different photos. Now, the one thing that I did not like is that there was no really big context given to these photos. They just kind of just dropped them, and we were just supposed to look at these photos, and people's mind would begin to go look awry. So I'm just going to go over some, and I know that this is a week probably early this week news, but we're still going to rock with it. Here we got a picture of Bill Clinton with face with a young lady whose face was redacted. And again, the Department of Justice is releasing this stuff, and they're not really giving us context as to what these photos are, and people are slightly scrambling. They're having to explain a lot of this stuff, okay? And then we see the buddies, Trump and Epstein. He claims he didn't know him like that or anything like that, but clearly he is involved in a lot of different. He's involved in his files. Now, I will tell you again. It is my opinion that Epstein was an information broker. This is just my opinion at Pam Entertainment. I believe that he was an information broker, and he collected information on all the people that he believed that was high powered, or where if anything happens, he can definitely move and shake and use the information that he had to be able to either continue to pursue what he was doing, or any, the the perversive stuff plus his financial stuff. Okay. I believe that. I believe he was one of those types of information brokers. So he kept a lot of information on people. So also, I believe too that he loved, he knew he wasn't talented to be a celebrity, but he wanted to be a celebrity. And for whatever you think about him, Trump is a celebrity because he was able to parlay his personality into a business, into a show, and we'll leave it at that. So I could see them giving information. Now, there's some things that I believe about Trump. I'm not going to say them out loud, but all I can say is informant. I believe that. Here we have a whole bunch of pictures that apparently was a picture taken of Epstein's desk. You see down here that it looks like a photo album full of pictures. You can't really tell who they are or what they are. Here's some paperwork. Here's some more paperwork. He's got pictures of the Pope. He's got pictures, all these pictures and things like that on his desk. I'm not zooming in to see who none of these folks are. Let's see, where am I at as far as, let's see, we could probably zoom. That's good enough. So there's just pictures, and I don't know. Like I said, the camera was bright right here, so I don't know if that's him talking to the Pope or not, him having pictures, but they did say that he did like to take pictures. Let's see. Here you have him with Bill Clinton. And I will also say, it doesn't matter what party he's got pictures with celebrities. He's got pictures with people on both sides of the aisle. He's got pictures with people who are in business. Looks like he's got pictures with people who are social activists. Looks like he's got pictures with a whole lot of people, heads of states and all kinds of stuff like that. He's got Bill Clinton in a hot tub. I don't, let me see, make sure that I don't have any more. No, don't have any more of those pictures. But there were other pictures released. And some of those pictures that were released, you had the picture of Michael Jackson being released, and everybody thought, dun, 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 Michael Jackson was in there. He was doing some stuff like that. But we come to find out that Michael Jackson was trying to buy a house in Palm Springs. Jeffrey Epstein saw, because they had the picture. It was Michael Jackson, Jeffrey Epstein, and Diana Ross, and then all these little black boxes covered up, and you thought that, oh, they were with three of the victims. It ended up to be their own children. You had Diana Ross with her son, and then you had Michael Jackson with his two children at the time, and they were looking for homes and houses. And so when Jeffrey Epstein found out that Michael Jackson was looking at houses, he made it his business to beeline to wherever place he was so that he can take a picture with Michael Jackson. Now, in the new crop of Epstein files, they were showing. Let me see if I can get to it. There were a lot of statements from witnesses that were. Let me pull up my bookmarks. Just so much stuff. Maybe I didn't put it in a bookmark. I thought I had them in a bookmark. Let's see if I had them here. No. So in the next set, there were a lot of different testimony or police reports from victims explaining some things that were going on. Let's see if we can find some of the latest. And everybody is still ramping up about what they found in So then we had this one. So I'm not going to just necessarily read this. I'm just going to show this because this is a very heartbreaking story. If it is true, it is a very heartbreaking story about a young victim who apparently was trafficked by Trump. Ended up, I don't know if she thought that she was pregnant by him or not. However, he was also a child of a buddy of his or somebody, something like that. All of it to say is that she did give birth to the baby, and that the baby was pruned from the timeline by her father or her uncle with supposedly Trump watching. This is the information that we're getting, and this is supposed to all happen up at Lake Michigan. There is a school in Lake Michigan where they're saying that they believe that that's where the incidents initially happened, in regards to people talking about uh, Trump doing nefarious things with underage girls, allegedly. So, like I said, it gets to be a lot, and we're definitely not going to do this. But let me get to this story since we're talking about illegal activities. Now, in the news, you've seen that there has been this huge fraud going on up in Minnesota with the Somalian population. Now, they don't want you to talk about it. They don't want you to say anything about it. They're just, they are more and less, we are American citizens and we love America, and we're US citizens, and y'all shouldn't really say anything to us, and it's not all Somalis. However, there is a level of fraud that's being uncovered that is mind boggling. Now, I'm going to be speaking as a citizen. One of the things that bothers me about this and about this level of crime, and I don't know if everybody is aware of certain things that are going on. So you had the election, and Kamala Harris was the Democratic nominee after Joe Biden crashed out 120 some days before the election. So she lost the election. You had a lot of Black Americans deciding that, hey, you know what, we're just going to sit out. We're just going to watch what's going on, because we understood that Trump said that he was going to gut the drain the swamp, as he said. So a lot of people who were workers in different departments, he drained a lot of workers out of those departments. He wanted all those anybody that's working in the government now has to be loyal to Trump and Trump's policies and Trump's ideology. So he's been draining a lot of that. A lot of people who had the experience and how to work and do all of these things, most of those people were kind of booted. And this all reminds me, if you're a follower of history and especially political history, this has happened once before. This has happened once before, back in the late 1800s, with all of this and people thinking that they're supposed to be getting jobs, and then an assassination tip happened. So if you're an unfamiliar, definitely go back, and you can tell that this kind of stuff has happened before. So, but what they did when they went through there, and they were going through what's his name, Elon Musk was going through the government, and he was talking about he had uncovered some fraud. One of the frauds that that it is my understanding that was uncovered was going on in Minnesota with the Somalis. Now, there was a COVID fraud, because you remember back during the time that we had the lockdown, there were a lot of policies that Trump put out at that time. Not only the PPP loans, but if you had kids that were at home and you couldn't feed them, different programs and things like that could be that could come together, that they could feed the children. You just had to tell the government how many children that you fed. I just don't think that the paperwork was lax, in my opinion, because again, we had never been in a pandemic, but I think that the controls that should have been placed in were not placed in. And what happened was it was rampant for abuse. And that's what happened in Minnesota. So currently you have about 77 to 88 people. Most of them are Somalis that committed fraud within that. They had this thing called feeding the children. feeding our future, excuse me. And so what was happening is you had this nonprofit agency that would then turn around and go to the different places and register these different entities, daycare, restaurants, I don't care what it is, but a different entity that they were saying that they were feeding children. And they were doing so much fraud that they said that they were feeding children. They were feeding more children than existed in the entire state of Minnesota. But they were doing this all in Minneapolis, St. Paul area. Once again, they were reporting that they were feeding so many children. They were feeding more children than existed in the whole state of Minnesota. So this fraud was uncovered, and you find that some of the fraudsters got away with 20, 30, 40 million dollars, 10, 15 million dollars, and they were just being fraudulent. You had grocery stores that were being fraudulent, you had restaurants being fraudulent, you had other different entities, different businesses and things like that being fraudulent, saying that they were help feeding this and buying supplies for this and all of this other stuff, and they were not. And how they were caught is, so it's like this is how I see the scheme that was going on. So you have the nonprofit organization saying that they're working with these different entities, restaurants, suppliers, grocery suppliers, and all that. All of these things were Somali businesses, right? All of these places were Somali businesses saying that they were doing that. So you had the grocery store saying that that the nonprofit organization was buying supplies from this grocery store or this sets of grocery stores to be able to buy the food. You had this other place, restaurants or whatever, was saying that they received the groceries and then they were cooking the food to feed all of these children. They were sending in reports saying that they were feeding all these children. And then when people started going back and going through the report, you realized you're feeding more children than exist. But by the time that they uncovered the fraud, by the time they didn't, because don't know why nobody in Minnesota, it clicked with them. Don't know why it didn't click, unless somebody else's palms were being greased, allegedly. Let's see how high up this goes. But in the end, it's about 200 and something million dollars that have been fleeced from taxpayer money that has been fleeced. We've got some of that money where they're just buying cars and houses. You've got money going over to Kenya to buy beachfront property. You've got money going back to Somalia. And also, too, I hope the administration is looking into all of these money, these Western Union like money places that are sending money overseas. You need to be looking to see if those people got their palms greased with all of this money, because that's a lot of money being transferred. You've got money that's been wired to China, the Cayman Islands, back to Somalia. Now, I've heard reports of this, but I don't see any evidence of it. No one has come up with any evidence. They're just looking into it, that they believe that that money that was going back to Somalia was also getting in the hands of Somali terrorists. So there's a lot of fraud going on. Now, I wanted to say that that's one part of it. They also have like a Medicaid fraud going on, and the Medicaid fraud had to do with autistic children. They were claiming that they were providing services for all of these autistic children, and these children did not exist. They didn't have that many autistic children. If the whole Somali community has a lot of autistics, then they need to be studied themselves. But they were siphoning so much money, hundreds of millions of dollars from there, that children who actually had autism throughout the state of Minnesota couldn't get the services because all the money had been siphoned up into this one little small little community, Somali community in Minnesota. Fraud. You have a lot of them doing things like, because they are a Muslim community, they may or may not marry one woman, because they may not legally, if they have a ceremony, then they're married. They may not be legally married, but they'll have many wives. And what they'll do is you have one man that has many wives. That wife will then go up and she will then go to and apply for welfare benefits. So you've got this woman with 2 or 3 children on welfare. You've got the next one who's your next wife with 2 or 3 children on welfare. You got your next wife on 2 or 3 children on welfare. You've got 300, and then possibly they're living in the same apartment building, which is owned by the husband, but he's not their husband legally. So you've got all of those 3 and 4 people living in this one little apartment complex or this house, because a lot of those houses can be made into duplex or triplex. You can have one 2 people living upstairs and then somebody living down in the basement, depending on how you configure it. And they could be 3 to 4 separate addresses. And then those same people are now pooling all that money that they're getting from benefits that they're getting from the food stamps, from the welfare payments and all of that other stuff, Section 8, all of these different types of things. And then they're opening businesses. He's opening a business and they're probably working in it, using their food stamp money to be able to get the supplies so that they can work in those restaurants and things of that nature. So that's another level of fraud. Now, we get to this. There's a young man named Nick Shirley. He went with Minnesota around with an older man, and I don't know if that was his father or who he was. I haven't watched a full video. I've just watched a clip. And somebody wrote on here, and I'll show you. They said not CBS, not PBS, not CNN, not ABC, not MSNBC, not Fox News, not 60 Minutes, not New York Times, not Washington Post, not Associated Press, but an independent journalist on X has now exposed millions of fraud within the Somali community with a hoodie and a camera. Let me share this screen. This is the young man right here. Let me share. All right. This is the young man right here. His name is Nick Shirley. He went in. So here we are. So this is Nick Shirley. He has a 42-minute long video exposing the massive fraud scheme in Minnesota, and it has surpassed 30 million views on X in just the past 24 hours. Combined with views from clips shared on X, the total views over 100. But anyway, this is him. What he has discovered is now daycare fraud. Now, they're opening up all these daycares, and there's supposed to be children in these daycare. He goes by these daycare services to try to enroll his child. There's no children in the daycare. The daycare is locked up. Don't have an issue with the daycare being locked. But when he gets to the door to ask to enroll the kid, because look at that, they got numbers and everything that you're supposed to be able to call to enroll kid, they won't let him enroll. So let's get back into this. And I did hear somebody hollering in the back. So let's see what they say. You heard the lady in the back. Don't open up. You heard that? Now let's creep back here. This is it. Minnesota Child Care. Nurturing young minds. $2.66 million. But you don't hear no children. Do you hear any children? Now they got it beautifully decorated in there with Minnie Mouse on the thing. Where the babies at? And probably the only children that are allowed to go are Somali children. And what do we know about the Somali community? They don't allow their children to go to no daycare. Those women stay home and they raise their children. So what children do they have at that daycare? They probably have their children enrolled. And again, if they're getting state subsidies, they probably have their children enrolled, and the state is paying this daycare center the subsidy, but the children are at home being raised by their own parents. They're not at the daycare. And people who need these daycare services, they have the daycare, they have the slots, they're getting the money, but they can't use the daycare services because they're scamming. Look at her. Why? I'd like to check a child in the daycare. Why? But Ilhan Omar wants to tell you, oh, it's a few bad apples. This is not a few. This is a majority. And these are your tax dollars. And then I want you to watch, because I want you to watch how quickly you'll see the men and stuff show up. Because now things are being questioned, because you know they calling. Watch how quickly the men will show up. See how they showed up? Look how quickly he showed up. Oh no, this is not mine. What's going on? If it's not yours, why are you worrying about what's going on? See, he's pulling his phone out. He acting all dumb like he don't understand. And you get that a lot. That people will act like they all of a sudden they don't understand English when they about to fuss and cuss you out. That, and I don't think that they cuss. No, no, I don't want to say that. But when they want to bless you out, they know all they have a great command of the language. But then when they get caught up in this stuff, he don't know. But you see how he's got that phone out. Because you know whoever owns this circuit or whoever's doing this stuff, he's gonna know how to get in contact with them. Oh, they must not have known. That's public record. Public record. So we're gonna check. I'm gonna check that out, and definitely we may do a reaction video to this. It may be long, but I definitely want to react to this. But you see what we're talking about, and here's why this is disconcerting to me. And I'm gonna be real deal. Why this is so disconcerting to me. When we look at the census, when we look at crime statistics and all of these things like this, you'll have these immigrant groups, and you'll have these, and particularly for me, and I'm speaking for Pamela, you have these immigrant groups coming from African countries. And they're coming from African countries, and they're listed as Black when they come here. Now, when they're doing good, they want to make sure that they're whatever they're doing good is separated from them being Black. Now, I want to be very clear. In the United States of America, you have a racial category as Black, but you also, as Black American, is an ethnicity. One more again, because I think it's difficult for people to understand that. In the United States of America, you have a racial category as Black, but when someone says that they are Black American, that is a separate ethnic group from other Black immigrants. We are not immigrants. Black Americans are not immigrants. When people say that they are Black Americans, you may hear words like foundational Black American. You may hear words like Sulan. You may hear words like ADOS. Same group of people. You can say what your name is, whatever. But that all means that you can trace your lineage here on this country back at the latest to the 1870 census. And you can also trace that your ancestors were enslaved in the United States of America. That's what, when people say Black Americans, that's what they mean. If you hear FBA, if you hear ADOS, if you hear Salon, that's what that means. Now, I do understand and know that the census category is African American. And that African American status came back in 1988 with Jesse Jackson, because he wanted to have this coalition of, when all the Black immigrants came in, they were all going to coalesce under one heading in one group. The issue and the problem has come is that Black Americans were trying to coalesce with Black immigrants, but Black immigrants weren't trying to do that. And so there is, you could probably hear it online. You could probably hear it in all these different spaces. But Black Americans are like, okay, since we don't have this big banner, we're not operating under this big banner, then we'll come over here and we'll operate over here by ourselves. And we'll separate. So you all do all the stuff over here, good, bad, or indifferent. Black Americans will be over here doing things good, bad, or indifferent. And everybody else will be doing the things good, bad, or indifferent. Because what Black Americans were finding is, when things start going to hell in a handbasket, everybody wants Black Americans to get out and march and fight and do all things, put our minds, our bodies, and our soul out for people, in which we're finding out that it doesn't matter what community. It doesn't matter if it's the white tea community. It doesn't matter if it's the Asian community. It doesn't matter if it's the Latino community. It doesn't matter if it's a Black immigrant community. We do not have any allies. Everyone wants us to be in alliance with them to push their agendas. But when we talk about the things that we're looking at, nobody wants to align with that. And that's fine. We know that now. I think that, for me, the best thing, and this is not a knock on whether you're a Democrat, this is not a knock on whether you're Republican, independent, I don't care. I think the best thing that has happened for the Black American community is when Kamala Harris lost. Because then you see how everybody is talking to you. Everything that happens, they want to blame us. The Somalis are up here going through doing all of this fraud, but it's Black people's fault, because Black people wouldn't come or wouldn't align with us. Why would we want to claim your fraud? But it's, if you look at the census and when these statistics come out, it's going to be Black. These are the Black people that are committing fraud. No, these are the Somalis that are committing fraud. You've got the African hair braiders that like in Birmingham, that are pulling hair and stuff like that. No, that's not the Black people that are doing that. Where is she from? I can't think of the country, and I don't want to call the country, and it's not the country because I don't want to get involved in all that stuff. But she is an immigrant from an African country over there in the continent of Africa. That's who did that. Be specific. Don't give us your bad crap, and you keep and want to be front and center when you're doing good. Take it all, good, bad, or indifferent. We do. And we're finding out that we're absorbing other people's stuff. No. You have a lot of people upset with Black Americans in regards to immigration, where they're going to deport you. Where are we going to be deported to? Black Americans have been on this continent since before the country became a country. And I'm not getting into all of this, who this and all this other stuff, because people are not foolish. We understand that there were enslaved folks that came over to the United States of America. We understand that. But we also understand that there were people here. Now, the Pan Africans don't like to hear you say that, and I'm not trying to get into any of that kind of a diaspora disagreement, because I don't think it's a war; it's a disagreement. How you gonna be mad at people to how they identify ethnically? That's a whole nother story. But I'm just saying, we're starting to see all these people doing all of this fraud, and then it's being lumped in like we're the ones doing it. Because remember, as a Black American, anytime, good, bad, or indifferent, when there's something done and it's happening, we're going to have to always take the responsibility. We didn't jump and go to another country to flee the injustices and the differences that go on in this country of the United States of America. We sit here and we fight for our rights. But what we've seen is that even some of the rights that we fought for, other people are coming in, like the Somalis. You can't lump them all in the same group. Why? They do us. And we're starting to see this is a community-based fraud. This is community-wide. Because remember, I told you to watch when this man came up there. You see how he was quick to be able to throw out his phone and go through his phone to figure out who he needed to call or who he needed to think, because people was on to him. I'm so sorry, y'all. Hello, hello. Hi, hi. Jeremiah. Oh, excuse me. Hello, Jeremiah. Hello, Faith. Good evening, M. Hampton. Stop the air quote. The air quotes is so I won't be talking out of turn. And you know what? Let me explain that. That is true. Slavery slavery has existed throughout times. I mean, you go back to when you go back to biblical days, and even when you're talking about on the continent today, slavery is still existing. Ask the Nigerians, ask the Libyans, ask the Algerians, ask the Moroccans. Ask the Kenyans. But it's always interesting that we as Black Americans, when we talk about the stuff, oh, well, everybody's doing it. Again, that's everybody wanting us to not exist as an ethnicity. We've got to be something else. But again, when you're talking about immigration, we're not the ones being deported. Oh, well, they got the Blacks. Yes, they have Black immigrants. So if you're someone who immigrated from Jamaica, St. Lucia, Grenada, Nigeria, Ghana, the UK, South America, a South American country, a Central American country, Mexico. If your paperwork is not correct, or if you're supposed to be checking in and you're not checking in, if you came here on a school visa, a school visa, and you're no longer in school, I mean, there are several forms. This is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. This is the paperwork that if you are an immigrant, you have to fill out. As a Black American, I don't know nothing about this paperwork. Never had to fill anything out. How to apply for your green card. What paperwork you have to do. Alien change of addresses. H-1B cap. All of these forms. You got to create an account. All Black Americans don't have this. So you have to fill this out. Any of this paperwork out, then you are an immigrant. You live an immigrant lifestyle here. We are not immigrants to the country. And child, this right here, the Trump gold card. Because don't you have to pay let's look at this. You got to pay a good, you could pay a certain amount of money and you can get in here with a gold card. $15,000 DHS processing fee, background approval, and then make a contribution of $1 million. You can receive U.S. residency in record time with the Trump gold card. You can sign up and secure your weight on the waiting list. Ooh, they got a platinum card coming up soon. 15,000 DHS processing fee, $5 million contribution, and you'll have the ability to spend up to 270 days in the United States without being subject to U.S. taxes and non-U.S. income. Don't know nothing about all of that. No, nothing about all of that. But again, getting back on the topic of the fraud, it's too much. It is really too much. And I'm hoping we get a handle on that. Now I do know that the Democratic Party doesn't want people to be deported, even though that there are reasons and laws why they should be deported. They don't want people to be deported. They'll say things like, well, they're hardworking and they're working, and it's just the fact that they came in the country illegally. Can I, as a United States citizen, go into another country illegally, work under the table, outbidding actual legal actual Americans who are legal in the country, those immigrants that are legal in the country, and the citizens of the country, lowballing those folks where their jobs are, that they don't get the quality of the job because they're being lowballed for an illegal immigrant who will do whatever they need to do to be able to stay in the country. Can I go to somebody else's country and they keep me? No, they boot me out with the quickness and probably put me in jail first. Tell me which country that I can go and live illegally and they'll welcome me with open arms. But again, I think, and this is what I think the Democrats are doing that because they want their numbers to go up. You're so busy worrying about numbers, you're not looking at the quality of folk that are coming. You've got a whole community that are fraudulent. And their congressional representative is floundering. And you know she's floundering when she wants to say, we all black. And remember, y'all, it was always a me no black, me Somalian, me no black, me Dominican. Me no black, I'm Jamaican, and all going on fours and fours. And now, no one wanted even to claim black. Black Americans were told we don't have no culture by people that look like us. Y'all don't have no culture because you don't know what country that you come from on the continent of Africa. You're lost. You don't have no culture. But now all of a sudden there's a certain administration that is offloading a lot of y'all. Oh, we need to stick together. We one people. Wasn't the tune that y'all were speaking 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. Wasn't even the tune that you were speaking 2 years ago. 1 year ago. A mess. All right, people. We do this every week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video if you care. Y'all, that was been gone for a minute. Now I'm back with the jump off. So I will be back on Monday with my celebrity news. We'll probably go in depth with this Tyler Perry information. We'll also go in depth with what's going on with Nicki Minaj and any the other lawsuits that are heading, and any other celebrity news that's going to pop out between now and Monday. So remember, please tell a friend, tell a kin, tell a coworker, tell that heifer that you can't stand that I'm over here making these videos. And as always, people, let me get everything straight. And as always, people, bye-bye.